In this video, we're going to make a user form in Google Sheets. I'm going to be using Google Sheets and Materialize CSS.com user interface to build the actual user form. So if you did watch my web app series, then a lot of this is going to be pretty easy for you to follow. If not, I would highly recommend you watch my web app series first. Either way, it should not be too difficult. So I have an empty Google spreadsheet open. I'm going to go ahead and open my script editor. So I'll go under Tools, Script Editor. That should get us here. Now I have my Materialize CSS open on this tab, and I'm going to be using some elements from here. Now, before I get to those elements, I'm going to go back here to my project. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make an HTML file. So I'm going to go under File, New, HTML file, and we'll call this user form. And this HTML file is going to be the actual user interface for our user form. For that, I'm going to go to Materialize CSS. I'll go with Getting Started and scroll down a little bit. So we have a couple of CDNs here we can use. And before I get to using those, I'm going to scroll down until I find this main Getting Started template. I'm going to go ahead and copy that whole thing. I'll go back to my app, delete everything here, and paste my HTML. Now I'm going to save this project, Control S or Command S. I'm going to give this a name, user form tutorial. That's good. So I need to replace a couple of things. One is this JavaScript file. So I'm going to be using the CDN for that. So I'm going to scroll up. So right here, see the second one is our JavaScript CDN. I'm going to copy that. I'll go back and replace this current JavaScript link that's linking to a non-existent file to this one. So I'm going to just line this up a little bit. And I also need to replace this CSS. So I'm going to go here, copy the CSS. Go back here, and I'm going to replace this CSS link. I'm going to remove this comment line here too. Something like that. So that should just give us our main UI. And most of this is going to be in the body section, which is our main HTML. That's going to go there. Now in this body section, I'm going to make a container div. And this is just to have some margins and stuff from the sides, so it looks better. So I'll just have a div, and that's going to be the whole container around user interface. So here I'm going to go to forms. So I'll do an input box. I'm going to scroll down. I guess this is fine. So the actual field is, see, there's this row structure with fields, and there's the form that goes around it. I'm not really going to be using a form, so I'll just copy from this row, and there's this divs until this row. So this is the form. This is the end of the form. I just need whatever's inside of that. Command C or Control C to copy it. Go back here, and I'm going to paste that right inside of that container div. Something like that. So basically in this container div, we are creating a row, and that starts here and ends here. And in this row, we have one column and two columns. This will basically make them two columns side by side. The reason for that is this is 6 and this is 6, and total length is 12. So again, if you haven't watched my web apps, maybe check it out to see this in more detail. But I really don't want them on the same line. I want them on a separate line. So I'll just do 12, and 12 will cover the whole line, and then I'll do another 12 to cover the next line. So we'll have 2 lines. I'll add one more of those column structures here. And it's almost like I'm not highlighting the right thing. Yep, because this is the div, this is the row. Let me just comment this to make sure I understand this is the ending of this. So HTML comments, they go like this. So we'll do end row. And this will be my column structure. So I'm going to add another one of those. Paste, and the last one, I'm not going to use all of that inside of this. I'm going to remove that, save. What I will do, I will look for a button to use here. So I'll go under components, probably buttons, and scroll down until I find a button. There it is. Copy this, go back to my app and paste my button. Good. So this button, we don't need it to be type submit or name, all of that. So that should take care of it. Overall, I should have now some HTML, and this will be my HTML. In this same HTML below this, I'm going to add a script. So the script tags is our user interface side scripts. For now, it's just going to be empty. We'll add some code later on. So this is basically the HTML. Now let's try to load that here. So we'll first load it as a sidebar. I'll then show you how to also load it not as a sidebar if you wanted to. So it's not going to be that different. I'm going to go here and create a new function. Let's call this show sidebar. Actually, let's just say show user form, because I guess sometimes it's not going to be sidebar for us. I'm going to create HTML service out of that template file that I'm creating here, this user form HTML. So I'll do HTML service, and we'll do create template from file, and the file name is called Userform. And that's pretty much it. I'll just save this in a variable. Okay, so then I'm gonna create HTML out of this. So to do that, we'll have to take that template and evaluate it. And finally, we need to somehow now use this HTML output and load it on this spreadsheet. First, we'll do it as a sidebar. To access our spreadsheet, we're going to use our spreadsheet app. Get UI, basically user interface, dot. And here we have different show methods. See, we have show dialogues, these two. There's also this show sidebar. So I'm going to start with showing sidebar, and you see the object is the user interface. So the user interface is going to be the actual HTML. Semicolon to finish this line. So let's try to now run this function to see what we get. Now this is our spreadsheet currently. I'm going to go back here and run this function, show user form. We will have to give our regular, permission stuff. So let's go through that really quickly here. Then it's going to run this. Now let's go back, take a look. And now we have a sidebar. So I'm zoomed in a lot. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so this looks the way it should look. But you can see how we have this 2 input fields, and then we have our submit button, which really don't do anything right now. But the point is we made our interface and it loads. Now, if you look on the sidebar on top, it says app script application. Now we probably would want to change that to something different. After I evaluate my HTML, I can take that HTML and do this set title method. And here as a title, we'll just write whatever the title is supposed to be. So we'll just say user form basics and semicolon. So if I save this, Control S, Command S, run this again. Now it's going to say whatever that says. So far we were able to load some form, and this icons and all this stuff, obviously we can change. So let's say this is what I want to do. I want to have something here that says first name, last name. So I'll have two fields to populate the first name and the last name. Maybe because it says telephone, we'll just use telephone. Let's just do this name. It will be full name, I guess, or something like that. And this will be phone. So what I want to do, I want to be able to go here and type whatever the name is and whatever the phone number is, hit submit, and I want to add a record right here below. And then if I do again, I want to add another record and keep going. And that will be our user form to add data to our spreadsheet. So we're going to go back here. I need to grab information from the form. That's going to be all on the user side. So I'm going to go to my HTML and start using that script thing. Now, because I'm going to have to grab some information from the form, I have to add some identifiers to accomplish that. So the first one is this input box where we're going to type name. So I'm going to change that ID to username. And I'm going to copy that and I'm going to give that same ID for this for. So this has to match this. And we'll just change this first name to your name. This one is our telephone. So I just want to say tel short. So copy that for paste. The type, in this case, I'll use text type again. It will be just text input like this one. And icon phone, I guess that's fine. Control S or Command S, that's going to save this. And finally, our button. Right now it says submit, which is basically this text over here. Add. Let's just run this. So we get some of these changes, which is not going to be a lot, but it's your name and it's add. Now I'm going to also add one more ID before I get to the actual script. So we'll do ID btn for the button because we're going to have to grab that button when somebody clicks on it. So now I'm going to go to my script. I'm going to create a few variables. So the first variable is going to be for whatever's the name. The second one is the telephone number. So I'll create the first variable. I say var name. What that variable is going to be, it's going to basically be our name field. Maybe we should call it name box or name field. I'll just call it name box. So we'll do document.get element by ID. And the ID is going to be for this name box, whatever I gave it, which was username. So I'll copy it, go back here and paste. So what this is going to do, it's going to basically just go inside of our document, which is basically our HTML. That's the way you can think about it. And just search for an element with the ID username. And it's going to find this element, this input box. And basically we'll just save this whole input box in a variable called name box. Now we're going to do this again for our second box. So we'll call this phone box. And the ID was tel. So that should grab that other box. What I want to do, I want to be able to run and get some information when somebody clicks on this button. So this is where we're going to do an event listener for that button. So we'll do document and again get element by ID all over again. The ID for our button is btn, and we're going to add an event listener to that button, and the event we're listening for is click event. So when somebody clicks on a button, and when they do, we want to run a function. So I'm going to call this function add record, and we'll create that function right here. So we'll do function add record. Let's just recap what happened here. So basically we said this is this button element, this one, and we're saying when somebody clicks on this, you're going to run this function called add record, and we create that function right here. And whatever happens in this brackets for this function, that's what's going to happen when somebody clicks on the button. So what we want to happen is to go to this name box and get the value out of that name box, and then go to the telephone box and get the value out of that telephone box. And we'll save all that in a variable. We'll call it data. So that's the data we're going to grab, and we're going to send it to our spreadsheet. And that will be an object. And in this object, we're going to have two properties. One is going to be the name, which will be whatever we get from here. So name box dot value will get the value that's typed in inside of that box. And the second one is phone box dot value, and that's going to be the data. Now I'm going to try to send this information to our code.js over here, so we can basically process it and hopefully add it to our spreadsheet. So to do that, I'm going to add this google.script.run, and we want to run a function, and we're going to call this append data. To this function, we're going to send our data. What this is going to do, this Google script run, whatever you do after this period, that's going to be the function that it's going to run from here. Now that function here doesn't exist, so we have to create that function, and we call this function append data. So we have to create that function here on our script side. And now what's going to happen when somebody clicks on that button, it's going to run this add record function, and this add record function is going to go grab the values from that form, and it's going to create this data object, and we're going to send that data object to this function append data, which is going to be this function that's going to run. Now this append data is where we're going to be able to now communicate to our spreadsheet app and add this data to it. So we're going to do spreadsheet app dot, and we need to get our spreadsheet. In this case, I guess active sheet is fine. Active spreadsheet, actually, not active sheet. And we'll get sheet by name. So we have to decide which tab we're going to use. So we're going to use probably this tab. I'm going to just call this tab data. Now we need to match that in our script. So that goes as text. So get sheet by name data. So we're going to go grab that worksheet. We'll say var ws, short for worksheet, is that. What we want to do, we want to be able to add more data, basically append row. And this append row will have to do the contents of the row. And what we need in this contents of the row is something that basically is an array. And in this array, basically the first one should be something like the name. So like Joe. And the second one should be a phone number. But we don't want to hard code this stuff. We're just going to grab them from this data object. So we'll say data.name. And the reason it's .name is because we just did it here. We did data name and data phone. So we'll go data.name and data.phone. Save this. So all of this needs to be saved. Now let's try to rerun this because this is the old user form. Let's try to rerun this form to get the new one. We apparently have more permissions we have to give. There it is, advanced, allow. Okay, so now we have this, So let's try to see how this works. So I'm gonna go John Doe, and we'll go here and do 312.000.000.000. Click add. There it is. Now let's try Joe with a different phone number. So that adds another record. Now this is a little annoying that every time we add a record, this boxes still have the text in here. So let's try to clear that. So I'm going to go here, and that's in our form side. So after we run this, we might want to just clear those boxes. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to say namebox.value should be empty, and phonebox.value should be empty. This should be fine. So again, I'll have to reload this form with the new version. So I'm going to have to rerun this function, show user form, this one. So now let's try this again. There it is. Now it clears. Much better. Okay, so we made our form. We can enter some information. We hit add. That adds a record to this database. Again, we go back and do this. We type a new number, click add. That's going to add to this. Now, one thing we might want to add to this form is that right now, if I don't type anything here, or maybe I just type the phone number, I hit add, still going to add the record because there's really nothing stopping it from doing the same thing. So I'm going to clean some of this up. So what we want to do, we want to go here, instead of just blindly just grabbing the data and running and sending to the script, we might want to do a little bit of validation here and make sure that there is something in both of these boxes. The name box value and phone value are basically not empty. To do that, let's just first put those things in a variable. So I'm going to say var name equals that. And we'll do var phone equals this. So far we'll just store those in a variable to make this easy for us to work with this. I'm going to do an if function. And I'm going to say if name.length, and that will basically just check how many characters are in here. And if it's 0 characters, this name.length is going to give us 0. We're going to check if that is 0, or if the length of the phone is 0. Then we're going to know that one of them is empty. So let's just create a simple. So we'll do browser message box, and we'll say name and phone required. So again, we're saying if the length of the first field is 0 or the second field is 0, then we know that one of them is empty. So let's just do that message box for the user. Otherwise, we know that they filled in. So then we're going to run all of this. So I'm going to indent this whole thing a little bit. I started this else bracket. I have to close it. So that's going to go right here. Close else. And this one is close add record. All right, so let's first of all try this. So we need to reload that form all over again. So I go here, click add. Interestingly, nothing happens. Let's try to type something. Doesn't do anything. So apparently it did stop me from adding the records. However, it did not show the message box here. Oh, that's because browser message box is going to be from this side, of course. Yeah, so we can't really do browser run commands from here because this is our user side. We can only run this from our code side to actually output that. So that's why this didn't really work. So we could, however, put this in a function here and run that function. So just to show you how that would work, we probably wouldn't want to do that anyways, but I want to show you how it would work. So we'll do function and we'll do error message. And this is where we would run this piece of code. And to make sure this actually runs, we would have to go here, and instead of doing this, we would just say Google script run, and we're going to run that function from the server side, which should trigger that browser box to probably show up. So let's try this. So I'm going to save this just in case. I'll reload this. So let's go back here and click add. See, name and phone number are required. So now we're running from the right place. I'm going to hit OK. Now we're going to go here and type Joe. And if I click add, same problem. And if I enter a number, should be now fine. So we have a little bit of validation now built in. Now, one extra thing here is that what if we go here and hit a space or a couple of spaces and then enter a phone number? Well, now it's no longer a 0 because 2 spaces is still 2 characters. So let's try to handle that too. So to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back here. And here we just check the name, the length, and if it's basically 2 spaces, it's still a few characters. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the name, we're going to trim it, and trim is going to remove all the spaces before and after our text. So we want to trim it before we check the length. So I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to have to reload this because we made changes. See, every time you make a change to this HTML, you have to reload this because this is going to change. So we're going to run this again. Go back. Hit add, I get the error. Do a couple of spaces. I still get the error because now it's not going to work that way. So now we have to actually type something. And it works. Let's clear this up. That should do it. We can X out of this. Now finally, I want to show you how to do not a sidebar, but a different type of user form. So I'll go here and do some changes here. So see, this is the UI. So when we get the UI, we can show sidebar. Or if you remember, there were some other options. So I'm just going to comment that line here. And if we do a period show, you'll see we have this dialog boxes. And the difference between these two is one of them is not going to let you do anything in the background and the other one will. So if I do this first one, the first argument is going to be again that HTML. And the second one is the title for this dialog box. So we'll just say new title so you can see. Let's run this again. So show user form. Go here. See, now that user form is going to show up like this. See, there's nothing I can do in the background. It's basically just blocking the background, but I should be able to go here and type click add. See, it's adding to the spreadsheet in the background. We can see it, and we can obviously go for another one. There it is. And what happens if we just don't provide all the information? We're going to get this. And then that goes away because the browser message box is the same type of box. So it kind of overrides this and that goes away. And that's why when we start handling this errors, we should probably just handle it inside of our form instead of having that message box, this error box showing up. But now what I want to also show you is that other option. Comment this, and let's do that third option. And this one again is going to accept the same arguments. The only difference is that now we should be able to also do things in the background to see while this form is going to be on top. So that's that. You can also resize these forms. And the way you would do that, you would go here, see how we have this HTML. We could do something like set height. And if I do like 500, user form now. So see, now it's longer. And then if you want to resize it this way, you can also do set width. And just decide whatever this is going to be. And see, now it's a bigger form. So for me, I don't really want those. I'm going to take those off. Get back to the basic thing. So the final thing I want to do, I want to just handle that situation with this error message in a different way. I don't want this browser message box. So I'm going to take that off. Go back to my form. Here, instead of running that, we're not going to run that. Handle error. We have this form. So maybe below this add button, we'll have some message that will pop up and give you like an error. Let's go see if there is something nice we can use from here. So let's see what would be a good option for this. We can go under CSS color. Well, we could do something like this, for example, or something like this. We might have something more interesting here. Like, yeah, these should be nice. So for example, see if I click on this, it gives us this message thing that disappears after a little bit. So I think this should be nice to use. So basically it says we need to run this function and have the message. Let's try that. I'm just going to copy exactly what we have there. Go back in our user side. We'll just do this. We'll say phone are required. Save it. I have a semicolon missing here. Put it there, save it, and because I'm making changes to HTML, I have to reload this. So I'll go here, click add. So that should, I think, disappear. There it is. Nice. So that should do that. So now if we type something else, we click on this, it's still going to do that. And then if we type a phone number, we shouldn't get that. Great. So now we can have an error message. And you can decide whether you want this as a sidebar or whichever pop-up box you prefer. I'm just going to do this one for this. So we'll do sidebar. Run this. Starting to think that sidebar might be too short for this error message. Let's see. No, that's fine. Looking good. So there it is. Now we have a user form. We're able to type some information, pass it, and run it and add it to our spreadsheet. And that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.